What's going on? My name is Joe Lewis, and I practice talking on the internet, and it's probably going to be a bunch of videos today, kind of depending on my mood. But let's just get right into it. LeBron James made an official endorsement for Kamala Harris. If I remember, I will put the tweet up over here so that you can take a look at it in terms of the content, and we will very briefly look at the video that he posted. So we'll take a look at that right now.
All right, heck yeah, it's cool. Black guy, that's one of my buddies. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome.
No, I'm not a racist.
They're taking black jobs now.
The whole country is going to be like, it'll be like Detroit.
A lot of it's about the genes, isn't it? Don't you believe?
They're poisoning the blood of our country. Troublemaker. These are troublemakers. Look, I love the old days, you know? Do you know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Now, if you had one really violent day, like one rough hour, and I mean real rough, the word will get out and it will end immediately.
But we're going to indemnify police officers and law enforcement from being destroyed by the radical left. You're changing history, you're changing culture.
Of course I hate these people, and let's all hate these people because maybe hate is what we need.
Anywho, so that was the ad. There's a lot of problems with it. I don't want to get into the content of my personal qualms with the advertisement, or the endorsement, how you would say. However, some commentators on CNN decided to talk about it. Tavis took to CNN and responded to it. And I wanted to take a moment to take a look at what he said. And so I'll play that clip and then we'll get to the commentary about it after.
Donald Trump can hang himself with his own words, number one. Number two, let's recall it wasn't that long ago when somebody told LeBron to shut up and dribble. I'm glad he rejected that advice then. I'm glad he's rejected that advice now. These personalities, these celebrities, these stars have their own agency. They are indeed fellow citizens, and I celebrate them speaking out. I'm not so sure what it actually does. I'm not sure people vote a particular way because LeBron said do this or do that. And I'm also concerned, Abby, about whether or not this string of celebrity endorsements plays into that narrative that Kamala is an elitist candidate. That does concern me. But at the end of the day, every one of us ought to be engaged in this process, and that includes celebrities like LeBron James.
I appreciate Tavis because that perspective is very, very balanced. I think it's very important to remember that the Democratic Party is the party of the celebrity elite. And the celebrity elites, the LeBron Jameses, Williams sisters, Derek Jeters, all the ilk, including a lot of the musical community of celebrity, are basically an extension of the Democratic Party. And their function is for people to see themselves within their sort of mini entrepreneurial brand. And it doesn't surprise me that LeBron James is coming out to support Kamala Harris. It should be something that we generally just ignore. But I do appreciate the idea of celebrities speaking out, but the problem is, and my concern is that you're going to have to speak in a way that's substantive to what you believe and speak in a way that is true to yourself, regardless of the political conveniency. LeBron James could have endorsed a candidate at any time, but it's very convenient that the week before the election, now he decides to make a public declaration of support. Now Jennifer Lopez decides to come and rally on behalf of Democrats. And that's the part that's just not it for me. I do think that celebrities need to have a voice, but their voice in a political landscape, I think, needs to be much more constant than it currently presents itself. As of right now, the Democratic celebrity or the celebrity elite, however you want to describe it, tends to appear during political conveniency. The perspective that they bring forth only is allowed to exist when it is politically convenient. And that's something that I can't decouple from my soup. Coleman Hughes was on this as well, and he responded to what Tavis said. So let's take a quick look at what he had to say about it.
Look, I thought that this wasn't very effective because it was such an exercise in hyperbole and selective edits, and putting it together with, videos from the civil rights movement and stuff. Twisting Trump's words in ways that weren't meant from a president that, for some strange reason, made funding for black colleges automatic, right? Not exactly the kind of thing a white supremacist would do. I thought that we were actually chatting before about Arnold Schwarzenegger's endorsement of Kamala, which was much more effective because what he didn't do was implicitly judge Trump supporters, say, you're racist, essentially, which is the subtext of this edit. He actually went a long way to kind of agreeing with them in certain ways and saying, I get it. I'm actually, conservative in these ways, but I'm still voting for Kamala, and I don't judge you for having your opinion. I thought that was way more effective.
So Coleman's correct in the ineffectiveness because it's not LeBron James's words that are driving the overall message of the video. It's using Trump's words and his words that he uses in a particular political context and particular political situations to paint analogous historical pictures. And then using that painting of analogacy, whether it be unfounded or not, to overall say, like, because of these analogous things, therefore you ought to go against this thing. I don't think it's that effective at all. With that being said, I take issue with the idea that, like, oh, it's kind of weird for a white supremacist to give funding to HBCUs. There's some variation about that in his language. And I mean, it's pretty obvious to see why that's a silly thing to say, but I guess I'll articulate it, right? In the face of desegregation, it wasn't that black people ought to be integrated into the broader educational apparatus. It basically was America is so explicitly racist that the only way you can get a fair education and a fair shot at society is we ought to create these schools that only you can go to. And funding HBCUs is essentially co-signing that level of segregation, co-signing that level of otherization. Because why would you want to have targeted funding towards Black Americans in a way that you see fit? No, you just fund their historically Black institutions. Like, every Black person goes to an HBCU. Like, we just had a whole dialogue on NPR about how Black men are not attending HBCUs and broadly not attending college generally. So, like, yeah, I think a white supremacist would fund HBCUs so that when there's cultural degradation within the Black community and cultural ignorance within the Black community, they can just point to those institutions. They can just point to those HBCUs and say, well, no, the problem isn't our nice PWIs. The problem are these Negro schools. Like, it's a very easy argument to make. So it's a silly thing to suggest that a white supremacist wouldn't be thinking about that in their calculus. And if you disagree with that, that's fine. Feel free to comment below and yell at me. I want to clip a little bit from the response from Shermichael Singleton, because his response was a little bit later. They had a back and forth of, like, juxtaposition, yada, yada, yada. But here's what he had to say when he had the opportunity to speak.
The question for me as a strategist is whether or not this is going to be effective. Most celebrities support Democrats. That's not a big surprise for me. That's been the case for a very long time. I think if you are going to lean on celebrities with the expectation or the hope that an endorsement will potentially move some of their followers, and I think you want the endorsement to speak to some of the trials and tribulations that people are experiencing. LeBron James grew up very humbly. He can certainly speak to poverty. He could have mentioned that in his endorsement. He could have talked about what it takes to accomplish certain things. And he could have said, I'm supporting Kamala Harris because all the things I've accomplished, I believe her policies will help a lot of other African Americans accomplish
sorry to
something
interrupt you,
similar.
but I wonder,
thought, I didn't think it was effective. That's all.
It's so funny to me and interesting that the celebrity politician is put into this position where they're not allowed to speak towards those things. They're not allowed to exactly speak towards those experiences, because I think if they speak toward, and again, like, I'm going to riddle this with my bias when I say this, if they start speaking to their experiences, you'll start to reveal a few things in real time. The first thing that you'd reveal with LeBron James is that he did not have a typical black upbringing that you would find with other American descendants of slaves in the United States. So when I'm saying black in this context, that's what I'm speaking to. You would find out that he didn't have an upbringing essentially that's typical of a family who has American descendants of slaves within their lineage, which I think LeBron James does. Someone maybe correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's an ADOS family. But even then, if you even discount that he's not an ADOS black family in America, he just didn't live a typical life, period. So his atypicalness of his upbringing probably going to come into contradiction of saying, like, I was given these opportunities. I think Kamala Harris will be able to give these opportunities to other. It just wouldn't work. So I think that might be why they avoid it. Like, think about it this way: if Taylor Swift would go forth her experience and her upbringing, and then try to paint it to Kamala Harris's policies. I guess we can mandate that your mother puts you into all these events and all of these concerts and performances during your childhood upbringing. We should just mandate that as a matter of policy. Because that's what happened. That's what happened with Taylor Swift, where her mother was a driver to her success. And listen, I totally support what the Swift family did with Taylor. I think that's the way to go about it. Like, if you want your child to be successful in the world, you're going to have to create a path for them and be very militant about them being on that path. That's a video for another day. But my point is that within the celebrity elite live atypical lifestyles, and most of them have atypical upbringings. So, and within those policies that Kamala Harris is presenting, I don't think they can point to their atypical existence and say, like, my atypical existence is reflected within these policies. I just don't think it would work. So that's where, as Shermichael Singleton is bringing up, which I think is powerful, is to bring up the typicalness that might exist in the celebrity. Like, if you are somebody who is a celebrity of poverty and you grew up that way, and you can point to that. You can point to that, my upbringing growing up is not, like, even though I made it all the way to the NBA, but so many other my counterparts didn't, because of the fact that they were poor, because of the fact they didn't have the opportunities that I had. And we need to create some level of some level of common ground so that we can push America forward and that we can push Americans and families forward. I think at the forefront, at the very least, of your politics, I think you need to have a strong understanding of families, jobs, and wages. Well, rather, 4: family, jobs, wages, and housing. And you can probably put jobs and wages together. So families, jobs, housing. I think those are the big 3, at least for me, that I think that if a celebrity were to talk about whatever sort of issue, I think that has to be included in what they're saying. But I do appreciate all 3 of these gentlemen speaking towards this. In short, the ads, not great, but again, I don't think the Democratic Party nor LeBron James actually cares directly about the overall political argument in terms of the content and substance of Kamala Harris. I think they're just going to work on this juxtaposition of saying Trump is all of these things, Kamala Harris is not these things. Therefore, because she's not these things, you should point in this direction. I don't know how effective that is. I personally don't think it is, but we'll see. We'll see how it works for them.